This video I am calling my top 5 reasons why I'm not a Christian. Reason number 5. I despise organized thought that is so easily defined by one thing. Let me give you an example. So, Christians are defined by Jesus. Jews are defined by the Old Testament. Muslims are defined by Allah. I'm not defined by one thing. So one day I might draw power from some idea or relate to something else. So I kind of have a jumble of different things in my head at one time. I don't believe in just one belief or one idea. That's why I'm kind of a moderate when it comes to a lot of political things, because I can see from both sides, all the sides. So that's reason number 5. Also, I'm more of a pluralist, so I believe that religion is really actually all the same. So if religion is true, it's either all wrong except for one thing, which I know is bullshit, or it's all the same. So I tend to believe if there is any truth to religion, it's all pieces of one thing that people are seeing that's the truth. Reason number 4, little historical evidence. Well, this is kind of a debatable one, but I've read a few books, including those by Israel Finkelstein and some other ones, and basically in the early 20th century there were archaeologists that were disputing, not disputing, but actually trying to prove things like Noah's Ark or the Kingdom of David and so forth. Now, more recently, a lot of discoveries have been made that really dispute those. For example, Noah's Ark was never found, of course. The Exodus may have never happened either, because there were, in Israel Finkelstein's book, there were just a lot of anachronisms with when the Exodus was supposed to happen, what was happening in Israel, what's Israel now, and what kings were in Egypt and so forth. Like, for example, he talks about when camels are in the Bible, the date that the camels were described in an area where they were never found until hundreds or thousands of years later. I can't remember exactly everything about the book, but it was actually a really good book. I would recommend it. I'll put a link in the bottom bar. So, how could, when Babylon is supposed to be the Garden of Eden, and a lot of biblical scholars say, so that's modern day Iraq. So if humans were first there, why does all our DNA point to Africa? That's another thing that they really can't say. And another thing about the little historical evidence is that there's just so many contradictions in the Bible with what really happened. Way too many to go into here. I would say that the majority of it, as far as my research, the majority of it is fiction until the book of Kings, maybe in the Old Testament. That's when things were actually beginning to be less mythological. And that's kind of a controversial statement, but whatever. That's my belief. That's what I've I've seen backed up by evidence. Reason number 3. The Old Testament is one of the most violent, genocidal books ever written. Now, I don't need to go into specific passages in this video. You can search it out for yourself, but that'll lead to my number 1 reason. That's really all I have to say about that one. Reason number 2. A lot of the Bible was actually written for political reasons. Like a lot of scholars say that it was one region trying to fluff up their history against their rivals in another region. A lot of that happened in the kingdom of Judea versus the kingdom of the kingdom of Israel. There's so many references that, like, for example, King David was really not a king, but maybe a hill chieftain. So basically, he was like a mayor, not the king of some huge empire or something like that, like the Bible says. So a lot of it was written to fluff up one group of people over another. And of course, it contradicts itself constantly. I mean, the New Testament does it as well. So, like, for example, I know that one of the Gospels says Jesus was crucified on a tree, the other a cross, and there's just all sorts of stuff that just contradicts it. Of course, we can't know for sure what really happened. But reason number one, and this is the most important reason why I'm not a Christian. The God of Abrahamic religions is a narcissistic, insecure, entitled asshole. So let me go into this. And this goes for most religions in general. You can be the nicest person. You can do the most for the world. You can be giving to charity. You could, you can give away all your possessions. You could be a total altruistic person. All your life, treat your friends and relatives or significant others great. But if you don't say out loud or in your mind, you follow one thing, one entity that is so identified with these religions, you're going to burn. And some people debate, whether or not you're going to burn forever, whether or not there's purgatory, all this other nonsense. But to me, that just proves that this God is so defined, is one of the biggest assholes an asshole. I could never follow someone that has that type of sense of entitlement and sense of narcissism. It's just like, oh, you don't like me? Well, fuck you. You're going to hell. It's like, fuck that shit. I mean, they don't even put the devil in there. Like they could blame it all on the devil. Like say, well, the devil's leading you to hell. I mean, sometimes they do, but for the most part, it's like God is in control and in power. So. And what really separates the God of the Old Testament and the New Testament? I mean, did God decide to be a more benevolent being after a while? It just doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, this is the biggest reason why I don't follow Christianity. I'm really against a lot of Christianity. I do like some things like A Course in Miracles, where it's kind of a guilty pleasure, and some other stuff like that. But I really believe that the God of these religions is an asshole. And who's to say who's right or wrong in each of the denominations that are within these religions? So that's all I got to say. That's my top 5 reasons why I'm not a Christian. And please subscribe.